If you've been playing Go Battle League over the past few days, you've probably noticed that for the first time ever, there are actually 4 leagues available in the Go Battle League. They are the Great League, the Ultra League, the Master League, and the Preview Cup, which is the Open Great League where they're testing out a work-in-progress new PvP system. Now, since we have 4 options available in Go Battle League for the very first time ever, I decided to set a challenge for myself. I'm going to win a game of Go Battle League in every game mode eligible. And if I lose, I have to go back to the start and do it all over again. We start in the Open Great League, where I pick up a pretty neutral lead, Stunfisk into Altaria. In the back, I have Shadow Politoed and Tinkaton. Now, I'm going to try and do these games in order: Great League, Ultra League, Master League, and Preview Cup. However, I am currently ranked very high on the Go Battle League leaderboard, so queue times, especially for Ultra and Master, are pretty rough, so I may end up having to do the game slightly out of order. But I will still be trying to do them back to back to back, and if I ever lose, then all my progress will be erased. This matchup is definitely more of a slow burn, where neither Pokemon can do a lot of damage to each other, but my goal, if possible, is just to try and get the Altaria out of the way to hopefully clear a path for Politoed to do well in the endgame. My opponent makes a very nice catch as they end up catching a discharge onto Tinkaton. I'm going to mirror and send in my own Tinkaton. I'm trusting in the fact that my Politoed should hopefully do pretty well into whatever they have in the back. I wouldn't be surprised if it's something like an Empoleon. I end up no-shielding the first, as I'd rather tank a Gigaton Hammer than shield a potential Bulldoze bait, so I do lose a lot of HP, but I'm still outside of Bulldoze range, so I'm still feeling like I'm in a pretty good spot. My opponent has to Gigaton Hammer here if they want to take the knockout, and they do. I put up the shield calling out that they would full send, and I fire off Gigaton Hammer number 2. This is going to connect. My opponent barely survives. I commit to the Fairy Wind farm down, and I get it. In the back is Feraligatr, and that is not what I was expecting to see, but should still be pretty good for the Politoed. I fire off the Bulldoze, send in the Stunfisk trying to snipe, but unfortunately they catch my snipe attempt, and the discharge is caught onto Altaria. I get the farm down. I will get some Thunder Shocks onto the Feraligatr. I still have a little bit of HP remaining on the Tinkaton, and that is going to be critical to try and win this game. Politoed can only hit for resisted damage in this matchup, and they are the non-Shadow Feraligatr, so they do tank a resisted Weather Ball pretty comfortably. I know that I'm going to have to tank one Hydro Cannon, so I am going to be no-shielding the first, and then just look to farm up. My opponent has so much energy, I'm going to switch into Tinkaton after this Weather Ball to force them to throw. I send in the Tinkaton, Feraligatr does not throw, they commit to the farm down, and they get it. They have the back-to-back charge attacks, the Mudshot sneaks through, can Mudshot knock out Feraligatr, Hydro Cannon shielded, Feraligatr falls, and we get our Great League win. Unfortunately, after sitting in queues for ages in the Ultra League, I did end up queuing in the Master League, so we go slightly out of order, but we do get a Master League opponent, and we lead Xerneas into Dialga. This team is Xerneas, Lunala, and Kyogre, and this team I feel should be pretty balanced. Dialga, definitely where I want to see it on this team, because Xerneas is able to inflict massive damage with Close Combat. Close Combat does get no-shielded. It is a bit of a difficult Geomancy down. It looks like my opponent will be able to make a second Iron Head if I try and commit, so I actually go for a bit of an interesting play, and I end up catching a move onto Kyogre. This is only an Iron Head, Kyogre is now up energy, and my opponent sends in a Metagross. Metagross is a pretty big surprise to see here. If they're sending it in, they're very weak to Kyogre, so I feel like this is a very safe bait. Unfortunately, my opponent reads me like a book, and they have a fantastic bait call that puts them right back in this game. I'm expecting they're not going to bait, so I do end up putting up the shield as they go for the Earthquake, and now I fire off the Avalanche. Avalanche will be enough to take the knockout. They put up the shield, so they are incredibly weak to Kyogre in the back. This should only be a Meteor Mash. Meteor Mash, going to get my Kyogre pretty low in the back. Look at the spice, it's a Shadow Excadrill. So my opponent was incredibly weak to Kyogre. Unfortunately, Excadrill does win charge attack priority over Xerneas. So even though I have the back-to-back close combats, I have to go for the catch. And I do. Shadow Claw sneaks through as Lunala absorbs the Drill Run. Even though I have a close combat banked on the Xerneas, I still feel like there's ways that I can lose this game. Drill Run will not take the knockout, but unfortunately I'm switch locked and my opponent will have an ability to catch. I go for the Shadow Ball, they catch onto Dialga. That is a very nice play. I probably should have tried to read that and go for a farm down. They send in Metagross, it's a simultaneous knockout, and Excadrill does not have enough energy to win this game. Drill Run would not have knocked out Xerneas, close combat takes the KO, and we've gotten 2 of 4 wins. After some waiting, I was finally able to get an Ultra League Q, but unfortunately that is not the lead that I was hoping to see, as I lead Turtonator into Kyurem. This team is very weak to Kyurem. My opponent builds up to the Dragon Claw, I disrespect it with an O-Shield, and that proves to be a wise decision as my opponent went for the Glaciate bait. I can now fire off Dragon Claw, dealing big damage even when debuffed, and after getting shield advantage, I can send in Shadow Toucanon. I'm really relying on Shadow Toucanon even though I'm going to be debuffed to inflict massive damage on whatever gets sent in. My opponent sends in Tentacruel, and this is going to hurt. Beak Blast rocks the Tentacruel, getting a guaranteed attack drop. Tentacruel unfortunately will still be able to outpace, so I'm going to put up the shield, and then just look to overfarm as much as possible. I would love to try and make it to the back-to-back Drill Pecks, and I'm barely able to outpace. Now my opponent really cannot afford to put up a shield here, because if they do, they're just getting knocked out. Back in comes Kyurem. I fire off the Drill Peck. Drill Peck will easily be knocking him out from this range. My opponent puts up the shield. Toucanon gets the Drill Peck, but the Dragon Breath KOs, and that is catastrophic. I send in Fortress, no Protect Shields remaining. Kyurem is going to connect with a Draco Meteor, and that hits for some pretty massive damage. Kyurem pivots out. In the back is Ludicolo, and this is not what I was expecting to see whatsoever. If I had saved the Toucanon, I would be in a very good spot, but I thought that I could make the last second Drill Peck, and unfortunately, I was unable to do so. Ludicolo's debuffed Weather Ball still does quite a lot of damage. I pivot into the Turtonator, reaching for the Dragon Claw, but unfortunately, I am getting outpaced. Ludicolo fires off the Weather Ball, Turtonator tanks it, I get the Dragon Claw, and this will be putting my opponent very low. The game comes down to this. Did Kyurem bank a charge attack? Kyurem snipes me, in comes Fortress, but they did bank a charge attack. They win charge attack priority. Glaciate KOs Fortress, and unfortunately, we have to start all the way back at 0. So we're back queuing into the Open Great League, and we pick up a very strong lead, Togekiss into Bug Bite Shadow Fortress. I decided to switch up the teams for the second attempt, so this time we have a pretty nice lead matchup. I overfarm here, making sure that I throw before they're able to make their Rock Tomb. They're going to farm up and fire off the Rock Tomb before I'm able to make Aura Sphere number 2. The fact that my opponent's staying in and putting up shields means they are very, very soft to Togekiss in the back. My opponent did go for the Sand Tomb bait, meaning that my defense is debuffed, but I'm still able to inflict some pretty massive damage with Aura Sphere. Aura Sphere helps me get a farm down. My opponent sends in Unova Stunfisk, and I'm going to pivot out into Feraligatr. Even though Feraligatr doesn't have an amazing matchup, the fact that my opponent stayed in that lead makes me think that Togekiss should have very good value in the back. My opponent makes a catch onto Furret, and it seems that my intuitions were correct. My opponent just had absolutely nothing for a Togekiss lead. I farm up as much as I can with the Feraligatr. Hydro Cannon should be enough to just knock out the Furret from this range. Furret gets KO'd. Back in comes the Stunfisk, but this game is over. I can send in the Quagsire. Opponent actually fires off energy, but they know there is no hope for a Stunfisk ever to beat the Quagsire. They end up undercharging their charge attack. They're firing off another charge attack. At this point, you can just top left. They go for a 0 bubble discharge, and finally, my opponent will resign the match. With Great League complete, I move to the Ultra League, and I get the same lead as I did the last time I was in the Ultra League, but this time I am a lot better prepared. Instead of leading Turtonator, I'm leading Shadow Malamar. And Shadow Malamar is one of the most oppressive Pokemon in the entire format. Glaciate rocks the Malamar and debuffs it, but even though my attack is at -1, I think Superpower can take the knockout. Superpower lands, Kyurem gets sniped down, and we're able to win the lead. My opponent sends in Swampert, and this is where things could get a little bit tricky. I fire off the -1 Superpower, and I decide that I'm going to get aggressive and pivot into Shadow Toucanon. Toucanon up energy is a very scary Pokemon to deal with. Swampert goes for the Hydro Cannon, there's the pivot out. In the back is a Volt Switch Fortress, and this is not what Toucanon was hoping to see. The good news for me is that I was able to save the Malamar in case I need it for later, and Toucanon can still make life very awkward for the Fortress. While they're going to debuff my attack with Rock Tomb, I've already debuffed them with Beak Blast, but these Volt Switches are suddenly not nearly as threatening as they used to be. I bank a bunch of energy on Toucanon, and now I reveal my final Pokemon in the back is my own Fortress. Rock Tomb is going to debuff me, back in comes the Swampert, but Swampert's already taken so much damage throughout the course of the match that even a Sand Tomb is going to threaten. The next Sand Tomb will be able to deliver the knockout, I have no Protect Shields remaining, and my opponent will connect with the Hydro Cannon. I'm going to go for the Sand Tomb right away. I just need to get rid of this Swampert as quickly as I possibly can. Sand Tomb landing sets up a perfect farm down. I'm debuffed, so I pivot into the Malamar. Back in comes Fortress. I reach for the Superpower, but I'm not able to get there, and that could have been a critical misplay. I bring back in my Fortress. I'm going to get knocked out by the Rock Tomb. My only chance in this game is all the energy that I have stored on Toucanon. I'm one off the back-to-back Drill Pecks. If my opponent has the Rock Tomb here, I lose the game, but they don't. They only have the Sand Tomb. We make the Drill Peck. That's going to be knocking out that Fortress, and we're able to get our Ultra League win. We now move to the Master League, and we pick up an incredibly good lead, Xerneas into Zekrom. And the Zekrom is not pivoting out, which is very good news for me. That means they are very core broken by the Xerneas. I'm going to be full set in the Moonblast, wanting to try and punish an O-Shield. I couldn't really feel comfortable going for the close combat because my opponent had yet to throw their energy. Now that they're starting to fire off Fusion Bolts, and the Geomancy damage is added up enough where they will actually be in close combat range. So I'm going to tank the first Fusion Bolt, shield the second, and then overfarm and fire off the close combat right before Fusion Bolt number 3 is available. My opponent's already shielded once in this matchup. They are not going to be shielding again. Instead, they let the Zekrom go, they bring in Goldengo, and this is a Pokemon that my team is not prepared to handle. Goldengo has winning matchups against this entire team. However, what Goldengo does not have going for it is it has pretty poor stats in the Master League. So even though technically it beats my entire team, purely off of just resistant damage, Goldengo is already getting very low. Shadow Ball rocks Dialga, I'm going to farm up as much as I can, my opponent tries for an Iron Head catch onto Palkia, and instead, I immediately click Roar of Time. Roar of Time will be shielded, I send in Lunala, and this game is going to be very, very close. I can never afford to use a shield on Lunala here, because I need to hold the shield for the Shadow Ball from Goldengo. Palkia Aqua Tail baits, and I think that's going to cost them the game. I could never afford to shield there, but now I can knock them out with a Moonblast. In comes Goldengo, they are simply too low, and we are one win away from completing the challenge. The final game is going to be in the Preview Cup. And right off the bat, I am instantly reminded that this is a beta test system, because what is my Togekiss doing? My Togekiss was doing like double animations for those first few pecks. So we're off to kind of a rough start. I've had some very good games in the Preview Cup where the system felt pretty good. Unfortunately, this was one of the games where I was reminded that this is a work in progress. I'm able to land Aura Sphere onto the Corviknight and then send in Feraligatr. Feraligatr gonna unleash Hydro Cannon, will not be enough to take the knockout, but will be putting the Corviknight doing critically low health. Corviknight only going to make one charge stack here, so they have no reason to throw anything other than the payback. For some reason, they go for Air Cutter, but they really should have just gone for the payback there, considering they were only going to make it to one move. My opponent sends in their final Pokemon, it's their own Feraligatr, and this could be a very tricky game to win. This team as a whole is very soft to an opposing Feraligatr. I farm up, fire off another Hydro Cannon, my opponent no shield at the first, but now they're going to start putting up shields. This team as a whole is very soft to an opposing Feraligatr, so them having this much energy is a very big problem. Hydro Cannon lands, my Feraligatr will not survive, and I'm forced to send in Quagsire. I reach for the Aqua Tail, losing charge stack priority, and my opponent is going to inflict devastating damage with the Hydro Cannon. My only hope at winning this game is the health remaining on the Togekiss. If I'm outside of Psywave plus Foul Play range, then I can still win the game, and my Togekiss is still pretty healthy. Feraligatr fires off Hydro Cannon, knocking out the Quagsire, and the game comes down to this. In comes Malamar, I put up the shield, Malamar already at the back-to-back Foul Plays, but I'm shielding just to force them to throw again. One Psywave and the Foul Play, is this going to be enough to take the knockout? Foul Play lands, Togekiss very low, Togekiss farms down, we survive with 1 HP remaining, and we have done it! One win in every Go Battle League game mode, Great League, Ultra League, Master League, and the Preview Cup, all 4 in a row. The challenge is complete. Thank you so much for watching today's video. My name is HomeSliceHenry, and this is MoreSliceHenry, my second channel where I cover content primarily related to the Pokemon Go Championship Series, but also just in general Go Battle League content that I feel doesn't really have a home on the main channel. If you enjoyed today's video, let me know. Leave a like on the video, drop a comment, and let me know what challenges I should try in the future, because I do want to try more challenges like this, especially if there is interest in people watching content like this, where it's not just featuring a mon, but instead trying to do some kind of challenge related to the Go Battle League. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.